Okay, when I say the word pawnbroker, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably some dusty old shop, right? A last resort for people down on their luck? Well, I want you to take that image and just toss it out. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a hidden, almost secret world of high-end collateral lending. We're talking fine art, classic cars, rare diamonds. This is a whole different ballgame, so let's get into it.
And wow, nothing sets the stage better than this quote from David Sonnenthal, the director of New Bond Street Pawnbrokers. He puts it right out there, doesn't he? He's not just running a business. He's basically reinventing one of the world's oldest professions for a totally modern high-end clientele.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to bust a few common myths. Then, we'll actually step inside one of these posh pawn shops. After that, and this is the fun part, we'll look at the incredible stuff they handle, from Napoleon's belongings to James Bond props. Then we'll break down how these loans actually work, and finally, we'll look at why this ancient trade is seeing this huge modern comeback. All right, so first things first, before we can understand the new way of doing things, we have to tackle that old stereotype everyone pictures. You know that classic symbol, the three golden balls you see hanging outside pawn shops? Well, turns out it's not a sign of desperation at all. It actually comes from the legendary Medici family in Italy, the ultimate power bankers. And back then, it was a symbol of community aid and finance, a far cry from the seedy image it has today. And this right here is the absolute key. On one hand, you've got your typical high street pawnbroker, often seen as a last resort, dealing in smaller, low-value items. But on the other hand, you have the high-end collateral lender, and that is a completely different animal. It's not a last resort, it's a sophisticated financial tool. We're talking luxury assets, and the whole thing is built around being totally discreet and private. Okay, so let's stop talking theory and see what this actually looks like in the real world. Let's step inside the very place that started this whole modernization trend, New Bond Street Pawnbrokers, or NBSP for short. Now, you're not going to see some big flashy sign on the street. NBSB is tucked away in a quiet back alley in London's super exclusive Mayfair district. People say the inside looks less like a shop and more like a private art gallery. Clean, contemporary, it's all about one thing: maximum privacy for its clients. So, who exactly is walking through these discreet doors? The client list is, well, it's pretty incredible. You've got this wild mix of sultans, heirs and heiresses, super successful entrepreneurs, serious collectors, and top-level managing directors from all over Europe. These aren't people in financial ruin. They're asset-rich individuals who need quick liquidity. And this quote from David Sonnenthal really gets to the heart of what they do. Let's be honest, pawnbroking can still feel like a taboo subject, even for the wealthy. So their entire service is designed to be fast, private, and to handle everything with, as he says, sensitivity and care. It's basically private banking, but instead of using your stock portfolio, you're using your Picasso. Okay, now we get to the really juicy stuff. Let's talk about the absolutely mind-blowing, jaw-dropping items that are being used as collateral. This is where it gets really interesting. Yeah, we're not talking about your grandma's old gold rings here. The assets they deal with are in a completely different league. We're talking fine art from famous artists, collections of vintage cars, massive rare diamonds, luxury watches, sellers of fine wine, and even incredibly rare books. Basically, if it's authentic and has serious value, they can probably make a loan against it. Just to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, their biggest single deal so far was a £1 million loan. And what was the collateral? An extremely rare, jaw-droppingly beautiful blue diamond. But it's not always about these huge numbers. It's also about really niche, collectible value. For instance, get this. They recently took in a single 50-year-old bottle of Glenfiddich whiskey. Just one bottle. And it was valued at £17,500. And if you thought that was wild, the list just keeps going. They have literally made loans against Napoleon Bonaparte's personal items, props used in James Bond movies, actual artifacts that were recovered from the Titanic, and my personal favorite, a first edition of a Mark Twain book that was personally inscribed by Oscar Wilde. I mean, can you even imagine? This is history and pop culture being leveraged for cash flow. So you're probably thinking, okay, this is amazing, but how does it actually work? How do you get a loan against a piece of movie history or something that belonged to an emperor? Let's break down the process. It's actually simpler than you might think. At its core, a collateral loan is super simple. The loan is secured by a physical thing you own that has value, like your watch or your car, instead of being based on your credit score. The item itself is the guarantee. No credit history needed. So here's how it goes down. First, their in-house experts check out your item and figure out what it's worth. Then they make you a loan offer, you sign a simple contract, and you get the funds, often on the very same day. You usually have about 7 months to pay back the loan plus the interest to get your item back. And here's the really important part. If, for whatever reason, you don't pay it back, they sell the item. But any money they make above what you owed them goes right back to you. Which brings up a great question, right? Why would someone with a lot of money and assets choose to do this instead of just going to a regular bank? What's the real appeal here? Well, the benefits are actually huge. First, speed. You can get a significant amount of money on the same day, which is almost impossible with a traditional bank. Second, discretion. It's completely private, and there are no credit checks that leave a footprint on your financial record. There are also no penalties for paying the loan back early. And this is the clincher. If you decide not to buy your item back, the deal is done. The debt is gone. No one comes chasing you for money. The asset covers everything. So when you put all of that together, the speed, the privacy, the unique assets, it's pretty clear why this ancient trade is having such a massive, powerful, modern revival. This quote from the Nottingham Post really nails it. You've got this perfect storm of factors. The credit crunch, the global recession, all these things have made traditional banks tighter with their money. So people, including the very wealthy, are looking for smarter, faster, more flexible ways to access capital. And look, this isn't just a feeling. The numbers absolutely back it up. A place like New Bond Street Pawnbrokers has been seeing staggering, consistent growth, with their business jumping by 25% year after year. That's not just growth, that's an explosion. This is a booming industry. And I really want to hammer this final point home, because it is so important. This regulated, asset-backed model is the polar opposite of those predatory payday lenders. Payday loans are based on crazy high interest rates that are designed to trap people in a spiral of debt. Legitimate collateral lending, on the other hand, is a transparent, regulated financial transaction. There is literally no risk of getting into a debt spiral. Which really brings us to our final big picture question. As the traditional banks get slower, more bureaucratic, and more rigid with their lending, could this ancient trade, now completely modernized, actually be a real glimpse into the future of private finance? It's a pretty powerful thought to end on, isn't it?